Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of TT eSports Talk Corner here. I am your host from Team Immunity System, and our first player, just personality, whoever, whatever you want to call it. But the first guy here is with me here is Pig from TT eSports. So first of all, how you doing today, man?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having me on, man.
That's alright.
It's actually been a kind of strange morning. Maybe I'll tell you about that a bit later.
Interesting, interesting. All right, so we'll kick it off. First, tell me your name, your race, who you play for, and how many years you've spent playing Starcraft II.
Yeah, obviously I play for TT eSports. I do play Zerg. I've basically been playing since release. I would say I've been playing competitively, actually joining tournaments since about end of 2010, start of 2011. And I'd consider myself probably pro gaming since about a year ago. So yeah, about 12 months ago, around the time of WCG and IEM China.
True, true. Alright, so tell me a bit about your backstory. Where did you start out with gaming, and did you initially plan to be a pro gamer, or did it just kind of happen?
Yeah, it definitely just kind of happened. It was something where basically I was at uni. I was studying media and communications most recently.
Nice, nice.
Before that, I'd kind of gone across a few different areas. Sorry, what was that, man? Were you going to say something?
No, I was just saying nice. Just nodding along to your story. It's alright.
The sound didn't come through properly, so I just
okay.
had this hiss, and I was like, what?
Got my pet snake here, it's alright.
Yeah, man. I thought you were just doing like Harry Potter speak or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, basically I was studying and, yeah, I was studying media and communications. I always wanted to do writing.
Oh, yeah. Like,
Not
like
necessarily.
articles, or just obviously articles, but stories, perhaps? Do you want to make books?
Yeah, definitely like
Creative writing?
novelist in creative writing, and anything that allowed me to be more creative. So, I was hoping to kind of head towards like feature writing and that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Sweet.
Just kind of general newspaper reporting wasn't really something I was that interested in because there's so many restraints and
Yeah.
on what you can and can't say, and there's so many vested interests and a lot of kind of trying to find an angle in the everyday news reporting
Yeah.
can lead you to be very misinformative, and it's not something I really found that interesting. So it's kind of like, I want to do this. This is something that I was enjoying though. I really enjoyed studying a lot of humanities, cultural studies. I always did really well, and I for a while I was kind of tossing up becoming an academic.
Yeah.
In that, but then I kind of got into the media and communications course, which is like a really kind of elite, hard to get into course at Sydney University. So I was like, oh, I'll give this a go. And then I think it was probably like only a semester into that when Starcraft II came out, and that's kind of when I guess I kind of found that I just had this like ridiculous passion that kind of trumped any other career that I had. I was like, kind of got to that point. I guess a lot of people probably experienced it, where you just kind of like skipping, oh, I don't need to go to this lecture or this class, and play this tournament instead because I'd rather play like ESL on uni. So
That's true. That's true. So did you ever finish up that uni course, or is it still on hiatus for the time being?
It's still on hiatus. I think I've gotten everything I want out of uni. I spent a lot of time at uni, so it's something where I was like, yeah, I guess I'll count it as deferring. I can go back and finish it, but I feel like I've learnt everything I want to from uni. So I feel like if I do move out of esports, which is not something I really want to do, even if I was organising events or whatever, I'd rather do that than work in another field because it's just such a cool community, such a awesome area. But basically, I was like, I've never really kind of valued the actual degree, like the words on the piece of paper. I got a lot out of studying at university. I started studying when I first left high school. I didn't get much out of it then because I kind of just went because it was the thing to do. I only went for a semester or so. I came back a few years later and I actually like worked really hard, and I learned a lot, about critical thinking, a lot of different ways of seeing the world and really understanding things. I learned how to, meet deadlines and really
the time management and such.
Yeah, and like really just how to work on my own and actually research and in high school you get kind of these really closely defined assignments and things.
Yeah.
In university there's a lot more freedom with it, and there's a lot more let's purposefully give you vague instructions so that you have to look up yourself. it ends up really developing you as a person. So I feel like I learnt a lot there, but I don't feel like I'd have the patience to go back and actually invest enough time to finish a degree.
That's fair enough. Alright, so next question would be, what makes the SC2 scene so unique? I guess we could probably start off with just a general broad term, and then perhaps compare it to other games scenes, or maybe just Australian in general. I don't know, but yeah. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know because I'm a guy who, while I've gamed since I was very young, it wasn't much online gaming, and even when I did play a lot of Warcraft 3 when that came out, I was never very involved in online communities, because my parents were kind of really like, stop wasting your time on the computer, and they
Yeah,
purposely
yeah,
used to like discourage us, me and my brother. So they'd like put the computer next to the kitchen, and I had like little kid brothers stuff. So like, there's just like would be no way to play without being like right next to like the family and
yeah,
stuff, and then like they'd just nag. So there'd be no let's kind of sit around and go on a forum and talk to people. If I got some time to play games, I'd bloody well sit there
yeah,
and play some
yeah.
games. So I think I never really got involved in any online communities. Like I went to an internet cafe a lot, our local one, as we all did, played Dota and all that. But it was always just with my direct friends. So I can't really compare Starcraft scene to another online gaming scene. But I guess, like, for me, the experience was, I don't know, most online forums and that sort of thing, whenever I had experienced them, it was a lot of just people arguing over dumb stuff and being
Yeah,
really, like, childish and just sharing porn pictures and all sorts
yeah.
of, like, stuff. And I'm like,
It's good for a bit of
really,
entertainment, but yeah,
yeah. Like it never attracted
yeah,
me, but like StarCraft 2, I don't know. I think it's like just part of the whole. Let's try to like improve at this game, and like there's actually you can actually kind of develop your own ways of thinking by working at the game as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that just really kind of called out to me, and I think Artosis and like people like him who are figures who you watch from the start and just have this
Mm.
like insane passion and are always talking about how you've got to improve by doing this and this and you know write notes down and
Yeah, yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that and it's like so much more that people invest in StarCraft 2 than other video games. They really do treat it like a proper competitive fulfilling activity, not just something you hop on and screw
Mm.
around with. So yeah, I think that really just kind of spoke to the side of me where I hadn't really played too much sport since I finished high school, and I was really missing it. So I think when I started playing StarCraft 2, I kind of rediscovered that competitive streak and just went from there.
Cool, cool. So, do you think that players coming from a background in RTS, for example, Warcraft 3 or Command and Conquer or anything like that, do you think that gives them more of an advantage in StarCraft, or do you think it's kind of a more of a hinder than anything, really?
I think it's fine as long as you realize very quickly how bad you are at the game. It's definitely a help. Like I remember I was horrible at Warcraft 3 as well, but like you get the idea of the basic mechanics and stuff. So I feel like it breaks down any barrier which might be to the game. Whereas someone who's never played an RTS, they see kind of people playing at the top pro level being commentated and stuff, and then they try to play themselves, and there's like so little relation between what they hear commentators talking about and themselves literally just struggling with how to figure out the basics. I remember coming from a Warcraft 3 background, like I would use 098 to number my army, and I'd like put my buildings in like 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5. I had like no macro, no multitasking. But when it came to just spend your money, as long as you're not multitasking anything, and then get your units and attack with them, like I could handle that, and I guess that's why pretty early on I was in like the top league or whatever, the diamond, and then master came out.
Cool.
It's a small leg up, yeah, man. Small leg
Do you
up.
think do you think that maybe what about other sort of competitive games like FPS and that? Surely, like for StarCraft 2, it's a 1v1 situation, so a whole lot of FPS where it comes with teamwork and strategy can still apply to 1v1, but teamwork as well. Do you think maybe other players from FPS still do they, or maybe is it just a competitive kind of thing where you've got to strive to compete and to really improve your own gameplay and show everyone you're the best as you know transitioning from game to game, or do you think that aids?
Yeah, I reckon you're right there that it's more of a competitive thing. I think the people that end up doing well in one game, like you've always got to have a competitive
Yeah.
streak. I think there's probably some people where certain game types just don't click with the way their brain works, whether it's from their own personal experience or, just something inherent in the way they like to think and organize
Yeah.
the world. Um, I think though you'll get a lot of FPS players like T-Gun and Starch who came from Counter-Strike backgrounds. They're just incredibly
Mm.
competitive, and so as a result, they do really well at StarCraft because they put in the work. Um, yeah, I mean, like I played a lot of Dota and Hon and stuff, and CS and stuff as well. And yeah, I mean, for me, the focus was always on just telling your teammates what to do, trying to be coordinated
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. But with StarCraft 2, like it's kind of it frees you up because you're
Yeah,
responsible
that's
for your
true.
own mistakes. I think a lot of people see it as a negative thing, and that man, this sucks. It's my fault that I
A lot of people
like
don't like
if
blaming themselves for losers.
yeah, like people really want to win, and it's like, oh, this sucks, man. Like I think it's hard as well. Like coming from most video games, we play against an AI like 10 years
Mm.
ago or whatever. Like, well, if you play properly, you can win every single
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
You can never win every single time. So people like bring that attitude over, and they're just like, why am I losing? This is such a stupid game. Blah blah blah. And it's funny how they go from that, and they just blame all this game
Mm.
design and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Even pro games do it all the time, but yeah,
It's
that's how
easier
it
than
goes, I
blaming
guess.
yourself. So a lot of people
Yeah.
still refer to esports as a joke career path, whether you want to do article writings or even just a pro gamer or what have you. How did your parents, react to when you said, "Oh, I'm being a pro gamer now," and what are their reactions to it now that you've actually been picked up by a TT and you've actually been flown around to various places in the world to actually compete, and you've also, you just coming off ACL in Melbourne this weekend, winning tournaments and that as well. Did that change their mindset? Can you kind of like have a backing when you go up to like even random people and be like, "Hey, I play StarCraft for a living," and they laugh and you're like, "Well, I'm a team. I sponsored. I get paid to play the game, and it's fun." Like, what do you feel like that from for that perspective?
Yeah, like people like so much more accepting these days than it would have
Yeah,
been
yeah.
10 years ago because I mean, I think most people in our generation have watched some form of competitive gaming, whether it's a CS comp or a StarCraft comp or a Dota comp. And so many people play games, and it's becoming a lot more acceptable. I mean, you still get a lot of girls like, games are stupid. And it's really funny when I'm like speaking to like a friend who's like actually a pro gamer or like
Yeah.
really into it, and they go still have that attitude, and I'm kind of like, what? Explain it to them, get them involved. It's not that hard. Like, I don't know, but then there's a lot more girls nowadays who are playing a lot more games. And it's just a fun thing. People are realizing games are actually a lot of fun, and
For sure.
as a result, you get people like Total Biscuit who just make an entire living off YouTube. So as a result, it you don't get as many negative responses. I think money is the
Yeah.
big factor, as always. Like let's not lie, that's what people choose to
Mm.
respect you over once you're an adult. Once you hit a certain age, it's no longer about, your your like life
Yeah.
view and how good looking you are or
How
anything
much
like
can you
that.
bring?
It's yeah. How much are you worth? Like it's really funny. Like you get in like if you're ever around businessmen and like the kind of attitudes people have are
Mm.
really interesting because there's such a focus on money and possessions and things. And I think I growing up always was kind of very anti that sort of way of
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at the world. I was very anti-materialistic. I was like, because like my dad, for instance, would work really really hard, and I was always like, why don't we just live in a shitter house and like you and have fun
Yeah.
kind of thing, and like I don't really comprehend because like he'd like be really stressed out and stuff, and he'd get like
Oh man.
migraines and he'd like really bad migraines, and I'd be like, like this lifestyle
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me. So I think as a teenager, when I first started kind of trying to think for myself and stuff, I was really like, I never want to I live in the first world country. I'm bloody privileged. I don't want to ever do anything just for the
Yeah.
sake of money or just for the sake of possessions. So I guess for me it was as long as I can support myself, I'm always going to be happy without very much money. I'm very much one who I know how to make my own fun. Like some people are like, oh, you need
Mm.
money to have fun,
Mm.
or you need money to have a girlfriend or go out. But I guess I don't try to buy girls. I'm very happy with my girlfriend because we actually have,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
communication
Yeah.
and stuff. When it comes to going out, I can have amazing, adventures and all sorts of things. And there's so much free entertainment around cities and stuff, all sorts of things to do. So for me, money has never been that big. But that being said, when I was like, okay, let's quit uni, let's start doing StarCraft full time, I wasn't that good at the game. I had won a small LAN, a City Hunter LAN, which was for charity, so I won like $300 store
Nice.
credit or something. Um, Other than that, I think I'd won like a $10 or $20
Yeah, yeah.
online tournament. I'd come second in a community open. So, I mean, straight off the bat, it's like, well, that is not going to be a viable
Yeah.
source of income. So I went and I was like, all right, let's do coaching. Because I'd already started coaching. I'd found I liked it. I was good at it. Because I'd put in the work, I was getting people to come back to me. Also because I was charging very little. So I realized, oh, there's actually so many people asking me for coaching now. I reckon if I put in even more work and advertise myself a little bit, I can get enough to actually support myself fully off this. So I was like, all right, let's do this. I was really surprised when I talked to my girlfriend, and she was actually like really
Yeah.
supportive of the idea. And I was like, okay, that's not what I expected. I didn't really speak to my parents about it. I was just like, I'm just going to do this because like I already lived
Yeah.
out of home and such. Um, but yeah, basically I went and I started coaching like 40 hours a week and getting like minimum 25 hours of
That's
coaching a
nice.
week. So I was still charging, $15, $20 an hour, something around there. So that was definitely enough to support myself, and I kind of straight away was really happy that I had this like regular source of income through StarCraft 2, and it really, because I was making it my job and my passion, I was like, hey, I'm actually getting
Yeah.
better at understanding the game because I was just investing so much in analyzing people's replays, and people would, they'd ask me all these questions, and that's one of the best things is when you put into a position of authority and people are asking you questions about the game, and then you're like, I actually don't know the answer to that. Like people say, what count is this composition? And you'll say, oh, this, and then you'll lose using that
Mm.
exact same thing in a game. You'll be like, crap, am I giving out wrong answers? So I guess from there, I kind of was really happy that I had
Yeah.
this source of income, and I mean, your question was more about other people's
Yeah,
actions,
like
wasn't it?
just non-gaming enthusiasts, how they feel.
Yeah, well, non-gaming
Well, like
enthusiasts.
people outside of the
Yeah,
scene, non-gaming enthusiast is pretty. It's probably a pretty like a not so broad term nowadays, but yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, all my friends from high school and stuff are like, "Oh, that's awesome." They're a bit like, "Oh, that's weird that you quit uni for that." But yeah, oh, you're getting money? Okay. As long as you've got regular
yeah,
money, there's suddenly this validity, and so everyone accepts it. I remember talking to some people and explaining it, and like, was the occasional person who was like, "Oh, that's stupid. That's a
mm,
joke. That's not a thing." And I was like, whatever. Like, if you're really that close-minded, I'm sure, like 100 years ago, you were saying that like milk was bad for humans
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. I don't know, like it just basically people. There's always gonna be people who are
Mm.
close-minded, people who don't like things. You get people who argue about AFL not being a sport or rugby union not being a proper sport. I just like to have stupid opinions. So yeah, I don't really
Yeah,
let
for
that
sure.
get to me at all. I think for my parents, when I showed that, when I spoke to them and I was like, well, I'm getting, X hours a week and I am actually getting money from it. And the idea, and there's kind of an aim to obviously
Mm.
increase over time, increase both my popularity and hopefully get to a professional level of playing. So then I can just get more money through winning tournaments as well, et cetera, et cetera. So there was kind of this like general plan of how to get more of a living so I could continue to support myself rather than kind of
Yeah,
being subsistent on this very minimum wage. And I think that's what it came down to. It's like, okay, well, there is a plan here. I think my parents were very hesitant for a while, kind of like, oh, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do 10 years from now? This isn't something you can stay in forever. And I've always been really adamant with people that like, I'm like, no, actually, this is something where I want to invest my time in this. I see, it getting bigger and bigger. There's more people
mm.
running events, working for all the peripherals companies,
Yeah,
people like
exactly. Yeah,
Mayo and stuff, who it's their full time job, that's their passion. And I mean, I know I'm always going to have to work harder and longer hours in this field than in any other, but I think it's worth it to be able to work in
Yeah, that's
something
it.
that you love so
Especially
much.
if you don't want to go on a job where you absolutely hate it, you're not going to give your 100%. With gaming, it's we all love it, so we're going to be sitting there actually put in the long hours for it and get more out of it in return. So we'll actually come back to that. That's actually one of the community questions that hits on that. So I guess that's a good way to end it. But next question is so what is exactly your history with Targa? He's been he's been known to rip on you on the forums basically. Whenever you kind of miss out on a tournament, you come second or something, and then always says things like, "Oh, Pig always has an excuse to his reasoning as to why he loses," and there's always this bit of rivalry between you two. Do you have anything to say in regards to that, or is it just kind of friendly banter?
I wouldn't say it's friendly banter, but I'd say Targa's just like his personality on the online is obviously that of a massive troll. Um, I mean, yeah, like it's not a secret. Everybody knows just the biggest troll. So it's always kind of weird interacting with trolls because nothing they do online is serious or mean anything or makes any sense. So it's basically just like it's almost like I think if you're interacting with a troll, you've already lost. Like just time because there's not much point. But as for that, I mean, I have a pretty bad record internationally in tournaments. And my TLPD as well. If you like look at that, I haven't looked at that in a long time. I'm gonna actually look that up now. But I've probably got like 30% win rates on it. It picks up on pretty much every one of my losses. But whenever I have a chance in a big event, whether it be China, the Onog Invitational,
or the Azus, however you want to pronounce it.
I think Target posted on one of the CSN rundown I went in one time. Basically, I didn't take a game in any of those tournaments. So it was like 0-6 IEM, 0-6 Onog, 0-2 knocked out first round of one of the CSN things. So, excuse me. So basically, it's I have a pretty bad record internationally, and I often, because everyone's really invested in C players doing well, I normally like to explain what went wrong. Like I post a blog or something in the threads. This happened, this game, this happened. Give people a rundown of what happened, especially if they're not stream games. That being said, I also have a habit of complaining a lot about a lot of conditions in a lot of tournaments. So, I mean, there's definitely a bit of a validity in criticizing me for being really anal about tournaments. Obviously, you were down at ACL and you saw me like basically just like refusing to play on the main stage. Because
shaky table.
Like T-Gun and Ninja and a few other players that all played on that beforehand, and I feel like those sort of things really screw me over in tournament situations. Like Onog, for instance, I had to play the entire thing from City Hunter, and I made the bright decision of choosing not to listen to music while I was playing because I was having problems with Groove Shark there. And I normally practice with it. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm actually more focused without music. This is a good idea. But I've realized that I always try to recreate my kind of at-home practice environment a lot better now. And I realize sometimes it's better to just complain about something during the actual event. Coming up with excuses, not necessarily. But I mean, as for Targa likes to just kind of troll and take jabs at people. And I know I've taken jabs at him because he does just insult pretty much every C player and say they're all really, really rubbish. It's part of his trolling, whatever. But I think I made some comments after ACL Sydney, like I was like thanking everyone for putting in an awesome performance over the weekend. I was like thanks to Targa for basically just being such a dick to everyone that we all so we all actually play a lot better because we want to because he's such a dick to everyone. I mean that's like I don't really mind. I guess I used to kind of dislike the way he played because he's very abusive. Zerg vs Zerg. He's also really good at Zerg vs Zerg. I had this kind of static way of looking at ZVZ, and he comes up with his target banelings, which kind of mess up like 80% of plans. If you're not playing fast and you're not playing really constant, and target banelings counted like 90% of the builds everyone was doing up to that point. So that I think really threw a spanner in the works, but it's really good. I think Targa's been an awesome addition to this scene. Like he's forced everyone to get better, because he actually is aggressive as well. And T-Gun and Glade are probably the only other aggressive players. And with T-Gun, it's this kind of weird mind trick aggressiveness. He never does a straight up standard, okay, let's just take a chance and do a pressure here. His is always like some weird type that doesn't, practicing against it doesn't really help you against other players, except it's like Hongen or like someone really weird play style. Glade, so basically Glade was like the one guy in C who would actually be aggressive, and then Tiger came along and he was like, hey, I know how to be aggressive as well. And started just smashing it up. So yeah, I think he's been a really good addition to the C scene. I don't know, like, you know, I think him posting and saying stuff, you know, about, oh, blah, 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 excuses, all that. Yeah, it makes me want to beat him more. But other than that, like, it's not like I sit here crying myself to sleep at night.
Alright, so what's your view on players that are making a living from professional gaming without actually being tip-top competitors? For example, we've got Cats and Destiny. They're kind of known as entertainers, I guess. They're not always at the top of tournament results, but they stream daily and they get, you know, quite a few viewers, breaking thousands daily, whatever have you. What do you feel on them? Do you think, I don't know, do you think they're true pro gamers, or do you think they're entertainers? And I guess, what would be your personal thought on them as well, I guess?
A little bit of, I like Cats. I also despise him sometimes in terms of personally, but when you're like, oh, you could be so much better if you stop screwing around, kind of thing. It's probably the same with Destiny. I think if either of them really wanted to go further with the game, they could, if they just stopped streaming so damned much and stopped focusing on being entertaining. Being said, they're getting a good amount of money, a good revenue source, and you know what? They're having fun doing it. Like, they don't have to worry about winning tournaments to get paid. So that's actually a really cool job that they have. It's basically a professional streamer. I think anyone who's kind of playing at a high level and playing in high level tournaments, I think you can call them a pro gamer. So, I mean, Cats plays NASL and whatnot. Destiny doesn't really play much, but he occasionally gets in the team leagues for Quantic and whatnot, or he did when he was with Quantic. So, I mean, I reckon they're cool guys, and they actually seem to be having a pretty cool few years of their life where they're just kind of entertaining, streaming video games, and they're really trying to be original. And I think it's great for the fans as well to watch people who just, you know, are so interesting and fun to watch.
Alright, so we'll go on to the community questions now. This first one comes from Rossi. He asks, would you still make the same decision regarding StarCraft and going full-time if you could go back in time? So I guess, if you were back in time and you still see where you are now and how you're doing it, would you still kick in with it, or would you just go, nah, I do not want?
Yeah, man, without a doubt, I would still do it. Like, sometimes I, like, wake up and I'm like, I gotta go train. And I'm like, dude, my job is to go train StarCraft. And I just get excited, happy, and I'm like, you know, like, it's this thing, like, I fell into it, and I just steadily started devoting more and more of my passion into it and working at it. The fact that it's working out, and it is a growing scene, and it's growing here in Australia specifically, and we've got so many more sponsors, events, and teams coming up, it really makes me happy, knowing that I guess I've made the right choice. I mean, I think as well that, like, having players like me who are dedicating so much to it, like, I do, you know, try to stream a bit. I try to help organisers and people, you know, make sure everything's going the right direction, or the direction that I see it. Like, I try to make sure, because there's so much work to be done, and a lot of people just kind of forget to ask organisers for help and that sort of, or to help organisers and a big kind of beast to kind of push along esports. I'm really happy where I am right now. I've met a lot of really cool people. I'm you know, still not earning a large amount of money, but it's something where I'm not starving. I'm pretty comfortable living with my girlfriend Dot, and where she's traveling with me to some of my events. You know, having little holidays in Brisbane, down in Melbourne, and whatnot. And yeah, life's pretty good. I think also at the moment, with WCS and ACL and everything ramping up in Australia, like, it's getting serious. I was complaining about my schedule for the next week or two in the old clan chat yesterday, and Elite was like, "That's fucking awesome."
We'll let it happen. Why not?
Yeah, he was like, no, that's awesome. He's like, like that just shows that it's getting more serious. That I've got to
Yeah.
do like 8 hours training, coach. I use my coaching in the evenings at the moment, and then I've got to do all these little interviews and things. And it's really cool that there's so much interest in it, and there's actually a
Mm.
need for me to put in so much work to be at the top of the city. And I was like, yeah, you're actually right. It is really fantastic. So I'm really happy with where I am at the moment. Um, and I guess there's just this kind of natural progression where, as there's more events and more excitement here, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm getting pushed to play harder and harder. And I feel like it's not going to be too long before I
Mm.
actually start doing well internationally. And we have something besides Glade to
Yeah.
actually kind of take games at the very least. So I think IEM
For
Cologne is going
sure.
to
For
be a
sure.
really big opportunity
I
for
guess
me.
to add on to that question, if we went back in time again, would you want to? Okay, say you wanted to keep going with this esports career. Would you want to be a player, or would you want to be an organizer, or would you want to be something else, or do you think a player is pretty good standing? Yeah.
Player definitely. I mean, it's something I was like, I could make money a lot easier if I literally just streamed, casted, and coached.
Hmm.
I could make a lot more money that way. I could make it for myself because let's face it, the caster market
Yeah.
is undersourced all over the world. In terms of those who are actually going full time with it, and also have the talent to
Hmm.
back up their investment of time. And we still do see a lot of casters on the world stage who a lot of people don't really like, or
Hmm.
they don't really understand enough of the game to be quite effective. So, I mean, I could have gone down that route, but
Yeah.
I would never give up competing. I love competing way too much. My plan's always been, because I guess I always had that kind of your hands get slow and old thing in the back of my head, but I've realized StarCraft 2, you don't need to be that fast, and hopefully you won't have to for a few more years at least. Um,
Hmm.
Hopefully
Hmm.
Nesty is still smashing it up in a few years' time. Because it kind of means that my career can go for a lot longer. Obviously, I'm 23 now, so I'm coming into it really late. So I don't want to be like, my hands are too slow. Like now that it does happen, I'll still compete casually and I'll organize events and I'll cast and commentate and stream and whatnot. So yeah, I think I would definitely still I would never miss this window to actually compete in this game I love. I would really be
That's
sad
true.
if I
So
went straight to
it's a pretty good
commentating.
segue into the final question here. Another community question. It's from Champy, and this he asked, do you plan on furthering your career within the esports industry after such a time when you're unable to continue as a player? So obviously like organizing and stuff like that. Or do you have other goals in life to pursue after you finished pro gaming?
I think that's actually
Hmm.
obviously what we were just talking about segues really well. But I always wanted to write, as I was saying before. Creative writing is just this amazing passion I have. I love to
Yeah.
tell stories, and I love history because history to me is just the stories that actually happened. I, since I was really young, I've read a huge number of novels from all genres, and for me, the written word is just like it's kind of my true art form in that it's something I can express
Yeah.
myself in and be just so proud of what I've done. Um, StarCraft, I can express myself a little bit, but it's different. So definitely, I want to write when I'm older. Um, that being said, is it something I have as a career goal? It's not a career goal. It's more of a personal thing. Same, I guess, as esports. It's not
Hmm.
something I need to make money out of to be happy. So there's no real timer on when I do that. I could, at 50 years old, say, to
You
finally
could
write
be
that
like a
book I've.
story writer for the next big StarCraft 3 or StarCraft whenever. That can tie in both esports and your writing
Exactly.
choices into one.
Pretty much, man. That would be the dream. Um, I think
For sure.
I'll definitely stay in esports as long as possible, and it's going to find full-time work. But someone who I'm a big fan of, I guess, would be like people
Hmm.
like 2GD, who just they never compromise their integrity, and as a result, they piss people off a lot of the
Yeah.
time. Sometimes just acting like an idiot, and he does stupid stuff and act like a moron. But through all that, people know that he's never fake and he's never,
Yeah.
compromised himself. just to kind of whore himself out to a sponsor or anything like that. I think as long as I don't just be like, I gotta stay in esports, I'll just, do anything to stay in esports. Like, as long as I maintain who I am and I can find a niche, hopefully, I think I'll be happy to be running events, commentating, doing all that sort of stuff for as long as I can. Yeah, I mean, I see some of the older guys in the industry, like DJ Wheat, like Tasteless, and whoever else who've been around a while, and I see them all finally getting the fruits of their hard work paying off in the fame and the money. And it's not that huge an amount of money or that huge an amount of fame, but the fact that they can live really comfortably now, basically just off their passion and just keep working it, is fantastic. So I kind of feel like as long as I just keep investing everything in esports, there'll always be a spot for me. I dread the day that isn't so, that
ban
esports because the internet explodes and internet just explodes and like everyone has like 20 kilobytes a day they get to use or something.
That would suck. So that's that'll do it for episode 1, I guess. That's the end of the questions. So thank you, Pig, for joining us. I have to look this way because I stuffed up my webcam, but that's okay. Any shout outs or any final thoughts you want to give before we end the show?
Man, I thought this was meant to be like real talk.
We might have to pick up some more questions, I guess, for next time, for our next person.
Yeah, I think because I'm obviously a massive fan, and as I said, organizer or potential organizer of esports, as well as I am as a pro player. So I mean, I've been watching the Real Talk series, and yeah. I feel like...
What are you pondering?
I'm kind of like pondering... Okay, like I feel like there should be a bit more personal stuff so that this isn't just the same as all the other interviews. But that's something we can put up in future weeks.
Just trying to think what we ask.
Shout-outs.
Yeah.
Big shout to Notebooks, mwave.com.au, and Eva Media. Yeah, like obviously my sponsors help me out just so much, and I try to, give them a little bit more than I see. Sometimes some players just kind of go, EG and all their sponsors, whoever they are, like Huck or someone say that. mwave.com.au, for anyone who doesn't know, is a fantastic online store. You can buy all of your electronic goods and everything at basically massive savings because they don't have storefronts. And so they pass the savings on to people who can get their stuff delivered to their homes. Gigabyte notebooks, basically, it's not that big in Australia, unfortunately, but Gigabyte laptops are actually fantastic. I've been using mine for quite a few months now, and it's really, really powerful. I do play Starcraft on it, sometimes on high graphics as well, just for lulz. Yeah, it's really, really cool. And obviously, Eva Media is something if you struggle with using not a brand new computer or a computer which you want to have a lot of things open on while you're streaming, Eva Media cards basically completely solve that
Agreed,
problem.
100%. The capture cards are a wonderful thing to have, especially if you're streaming, for sure. Alright, so, you know what? We could probably open a can of worms and probably discuss the FXO blog thing, I guess. Could we touch into that, do you think? Or do you think that might be something else? Yeah.
I think
we have to try and... I don't know how we're going to organise tonight's show, but we have to... Because Benji has to go at 9 and you have to go at 9 as well. So we might just like start off with the big things and just talk for hours.
If we're starting...
Yeah.
Like, I don't want the show to go over 2 hours. Horrible with Igos and T-Gun just kind of going back and forth.
We'll leave it for tonight then, unless you want to give like a quick rundown or something. Alright, so...
that should be cool, man.
That'll be it, yeah. Thanks for tuning in. We've got episode 2 coming up. I believe there's going to be a post on sc2sca.com if you want to check out. Or maybe we'll have voting as who's going to be next. Who knows? Still, well, it's not still in the works. We've announced it, but yeah, hopefully you guys like this episode. Tell us the feedback and what do you want to see improved, changed, whatever. Just let us know how we're doing, and we'll change that for episode 2. So again, iMSystem here from Team Immunity. With me is Pig, pointed the wrong way, but there he is from TT Esports. And thanks guys for tuning in. We'll see you in episode 2.